the topic we did last week was transforming problems. So I just thought one of those techniques is compassion. So I thought we'd just expand on that one, doing this thing called equalizing and exchanging self for others, Tonglen. So we'll do that in more detail. It's sort of said to be one of the most powerful and effective meditations we can do. So that's practice that all our teachers recommend we do as often as possible. So I thought it'd be the one to finish the series on. Okay, so just before that, let's do a few minutes just mindfulness meditation. Just calming the mind and watching the breath. Very simple. Okay, we'll just always begin by consciously bringing our attention into our body and mind, what's happening in our inner world. Feel that we let go of whatever been happening today. Time to take care of our minds, be kind to our minds. Thinking how fortunate we are to be able to do some practice together, come together and study the incredible teachings of the Buddha. Motivation is always the Mahayana motivation to not just benefit ourselves from our practice, but benefit all living beings, with the aim ultimately of becoming the Buddha and benefiting all beings in the best possible way. And now just checking the body, making sure the body is straight, the spine is straight, shoulders relaxed, weight evenly distributed on the chair or the floor. You can use the out breath to breathe out any tension in the body. Feel that we're just letting go. Coming to the present moment. And watching the breath, which is already happening. And now we're paying attention to it. We're watching, nothing to change, nothing to judge. While we're staying with the breath, part of the mind is observing what we're doing, is checking that we're still on the breath. On the lookout for wandering mind, distracting thoughts. When that happens and we notice the mind wander, we just gently let go of that thought or that sound, patiently come back to the breath. Bring each breath all the way into the body and all the way out of the body. Okay, thanks. Let's relax. So, as I said, we're going to try this Tongling meditation. Tongling means taking and giving, and, also called equalizing and exchanging self for others. Probably the best description of what it is, Lama Yeshe, in this wonderful book, Lama Zopa, which is collection of teachings by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. And each page, there's just one page of teachings for each day of the year. So it's possible to just work through the whole all the Lam topics, just each day, looking at one particular teaching from either Lama Yeshe or Lama Zopa. So Lama Yeshe says on this practice.
What page are you on?
Sorry, are we still there?
Yes, what page are you on?
Oh, okay. This book, it's page 306 of Lamrim Year. He says, one of the methods specially emphasized by Shantideva for developing bodhicitta was that of equalizing, exchanging self and others, changing attachment to one's own happiness to attachment to the happiness of others. And then he says, for countless lives, we've always been obsessed with our own pleasure and completely neglected that of others. And so this beginningless focus on our own happiness to the exclusion of others is called self-cherishing. And so we have to totally change this attitude to one of greater concern for others' welfare than our own greater concern. So that's the overall objective. And he says, this thought is extremely powerful. Just generating it automatically destroys the ego. And then he gives an example of how sometimes if we're asked to do something for somebody, even as simple as just giving them a cup of tea, we can actually sometimes think it's just such a burden and inconvenience if it's not fitting in with our schedule. And but he says if you do something as simple as that, giving someone a cup of tea with dedicated thought of bodhicitta, compassion for that being, it's the most positive thing we can do. And all the qualities of the omniscient enlightened mind come from concern for other beings' pleasure. Just having this understanding is very powerful. So that omniscient enlightened mind is, of course, the Buddha mind that we're trying to achieve ultimately. And then over the page, he says, this on page 308, one of the logical reasons for thinking all beings, we start off the practice with what we call equanimity or equalizing meditation. It's a little bit different to equanimity. It's based on the thinking that, realization that just like ourselves, all living beings, humans, animals, all the other realms, they all looking for happiness, and no one wants to be unhappy. So that's no one wants to suffer. That's sort of something that can't be argued, really. And also acknowledging that when we do, being unenlightened beings, we do suffer in very many ways, physically, mentally. And he says, just acknowledging that feeling when we do suffer, that others are in the same position, that feeling of common humanity, we're sharing that experience. When I encounter someone, just quoting now, when I encounter someone who agitates me, I see them as an enemy and want to give them harm. And when an enemy finds good fortune, I get jealous. Such a mind, he says, is unrealistic, unbalanced, and extreme. Gives the example of two hungry people come to our front door, both wanting food, and we just single out one of them. Maybe we just like the look of one, some sort of very superficial reason, and we neglect the other one. Then he says this is extremely narrow sort of thinking, and comes from misconception, attachment, an unbalanced mind acting in an unrealistic manner. Okay, so it could be something based on the look of the person, whether they look more like we do, or some sort of, could be racial, could be whether they're well dressed, or how needy they look. Anyway, whatever it is, he says this discriminating sort of mind is unrealistic. So this is what you need to level out in the first part of the practice, just acknowledging that we all have this common need of happiness, and we're all not getting it where we are. And also that then we look at the numbers. We have one, we're thinking about our own problem, and then there are other countless beings, billions, uncountable number with the same problem. Which is more important? Which one should we be focusing on more? Obviously, the others are having much more deserving of our attention than just us. So that's one sort of logical reasoning to start thinking about others. Another one is how we benefit from this practice, and how we suffer from the opposite sort of practice, which is the one of self-cherishing. So benefits include things like having a more peaceful state of mind, because we're less concerned with our own problems. We're looking outwards, looking at what's happening to others. It takes our mind away from this self-centered concern. We also, Lama Zopa often points out that by just having this concern for others in the back of our minds, we attract other people more attracted to us, that we feel that they feel more comfortable with us. Whereas somebody who's just totally obsessed with their own problems, we have that often. If we meet people like that, we can see that when they're not people that we want to spend a lot of time with. So there's that aspect as well. And then the disadvantages of holding on to this self-obsession, self-cherishing mind is that we can't make progress in our practice. We're delaying our path to enlightenment. We can't really even be happy in this life because this sort of thinking generates physical problems. We can actually create our illnesses for ourselves by this constant over-obsession with our own problem, and we can become just less and less happy beings. There's beings that people avoid rather than want to be with. So the other thing is that when His Holiness is teaching this, he for Westerners, he points out that we do the practice not from the fact that we're nothing, and we're sort of insignificant, and from a very sort of poor view of ourselves, but we do it from a point of view that we have self-confidence. So he points out the difference between self-centeredness and self-concern, genuine self-concern, which is wanting to feeling that we can do the practice, that it's worthwhile, that we have Buddha potential, so we can actually improve ourselves, improve our progress on the path by doing the practice. So he says self-centeredness is just looking purely at the thought of ourselves and grasping on this sort of illusory self that we can't even find. It's just a label that we put onto ourselves. So just quoting, he says, to develop peace within ourselves, by developing peace within ourselves, our peace of mind, we can bring peace to others. So there is space for caring for oneself and concern for others. And then a bit later, he says something about we shouldn't feel guilty about being happy. He says, don't mistakenly think that if you experience happiness, you are self-centered. He says, practicing the path should be joyful. Pleasures themselves are not the problem. Self-centered attachment to them is. So respect ourselves and our Buddha potential. Okay, so this is something that good to bear in mind when we do the practice, because it's a very profound, quite difficult practice, quite advanced. So just to outline the steps. The first thing is to have contemplation on this equalizing self for others, seeing this common humanity that you have, the need that we all have to be happy, and the fact that we do all stuff up. And then some contemplation on the benefits of the practice. Then we bring to mind a problem that we're experiencing. Could be a health problem, could be a relationship problem, work problem, financial problem. Or if we can't think of one, we've all experienced problems in the past. So we can bring to mind a particular problem, or we can bring several problems if we usually have a range to choose from. There's usually not a lot of lack of problems in our life. So then we feel the pain of that problem, how it is affecting us, or it has affected us, without going into all the details, but just feeling the effect of them. And then we introduce this thought, well, while I'm feeling this problem, countless other beings in the world and in other worlds are also having exactly the same problem, exactly the same, and possibly worse versions of the same problem. So just entering that into our way of thinking, and then we can go to the next stage, is thinking that wouldn't it be amazing to think that if by experiencing this problem, I could somehow relieve other beings of having to experience it. That's the compassionate thought, wanting to actually relieve other beings of their suffering. This is the Mahayana compassionate mind. So we just introduce that possibility into the way of thinking, see what effect it has on our mind. And Lama Zopa usually says that our mind can freak out because it's so different to the way we've been thinking over countless rebirths, where we've been much more focused on our own well-being. So introduce that thought and just let it stay. And then we use the breath, this breathing meditation. So we visualize with the in-breath that there's two types of the practice. So the traditional type is we visualize all beings in human form around us, all suffering in different ways. And we visualize as we think how wonderful, if only we could relieve them of this problem, the problems and suffering in the form of black smoke coming out of the beings with each in-breath, and we draw it into the heart, our heart center, where we imagine this self-cherishing thought. So that can be visualized like a hard rock that is dissolved by the black smoke. It can be quite a confronting visualization, but that in-breath dissolves all our resistance, all our self-cherishing, our self-obsession, and so on. So some Western teachers say that this can be a bit too much for some people. So there's a kind of an intermediary stage where we imagine the black smoke, instead of coming into the heart, goes out beyond space, where it can't actually affect other beings. We're drawing the problem out of the being and sending it out beyond space, where it can do no harm. So, these teachers who teach this say that can avoid what they call lung, kind of an emotional problem, where we sort of feel that the kind of a constriction in the heart. So there's two options there, one coming into the heart, dissolving our self-cherishing, the other going beyond space with each in-breath. The in-breath destroys all our self-cherishing and also relieves the beings of their suffering. So we stay with that for a while. And then the next focus is on the out-breath, where we visualize giving this being all our happiness, all our good karma, all our good fortune, and for white light beaming out from our heart into the hearts of all the beings with each out-breath, and feeling that the white light just eliminates all their unhappiness, all their suffering, and fills them with bliss, happiness, well-being, good health, and so on. So that's the out part of the breathing out. So then it's possible to alternate the visualization with each in and out breath if it's comfortable. That's obviously a lot quicker, the visualization. And then the last part of it is to imagine that our meditation has had an effect. It's actually helped the other beings, even though at the back we know that this is just a visualization. But all the teachers, Lama Zopa, Lama Zopa, say just by doing the practice, it has unbelievable effects on our mind, and it helps each time we do the practice, we come closer to enlightenment. So it's very, very powerful. So we just imagine this happening. Of course, the Buddhas, when they do this, Bodhisattvas do this practice, they're actually giving help to the working for other beings, and the force of their meditation can actually bring incredible positive results that we can't even imagine it. So that's what we're aiming at, becoming as powerful as that. So that's kind of an outline of the practice. something that you've either heard of or tried before. Questions, comments? Quite a powerful practice. Just think about it if there's anything that comes up with that. And then the last part, we can actually imagine that we are wishing all those beings to have happiness, to be free of suffering, and to have peace of mind. We can actually say the words which are to help, to almost like, if we know the mantra of Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of compassion, we could actually also recite that as we do the out breathing, white light meditation. Not necessary, but if you know it, that can help. Anything to raise? Probably something that you've done before, but it always helps. It's always good to do it again. All right, so let's get comfortable and let's give it a try. Actually checking if we're still there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're still there. Good. The screen just changed. I had a white screen, so we're still here. Great. Okay, just coming into our calm mind, just a few moments, just focusing on the breath. Okay, so we begin our practice of compassion meditation. Tongmeng, equalizing, exchanging self for others. By bringing to first practicing equalizing practice, contemplating how all living beings, including ourselves, wish to be happy, part of our nature, to want happiness and not want suffering. Or also realizing that although this is our wish, ourselves and others experience suffering, unwanted suffering, of many different kinds. First noble truth, suffering exists. Three types being suffering of suffering, suffering of experiencing sickness, physical aging, that things that happen every day, accidents, disappointments in our life. Not getting what we want when we want it. Difficult people in our lives. All the problems, everyday life, financial, relationship problems, work problems. Also acknowledging that while we do have these problems, other beings also are experiencing them. We are one, they are countless in number. Thinking, which is more important? Just the one or the others? Obviously, the greater number is more important. Second way of helping equalizing ourselves with others is to remember the kindness of other beings in our lives, how they've helped us, how they provide. Right from our moment of birth, our parents provided us with food, shelter, clothing, protection. How they gave us keys to be able to grow up in this life, education, sacrifice their own welfare, to look after ourselves, to look after us as children. Kindness of our teachers at school, particularly kindness of close friends and perhaps relatives who've guided us, encouraged us. Kindness of countless strangers who provide us with food, even though we don't grow food. We eat and rely on other people to grow the food. All the living beings that have died to provide the food. Insects, those who've grown the food, prepared it, taken it to market. That one bowl of rice, all the work that has been done to put it on the table by the kindness of other beings. Also our clothing, we don't usually make our own clothing, but the kindness of others, grow the cotton, the sheep provide the wool, beings who died provide the shoes, the leather. Those who work in the sweatshops, in incredibly difficult conditions, making the clothes. In our daily life, those who provide us with transport, bus drivers, train drivers, those who make the cars, the technology, computers, the phones, the software. Every day we receive the kind of benefit of the work of others, the skill of others to make our lives comfortable, provide us with necessities. Feeling that connection with other beings. You can also include our pets, animals, provide us with comfort, companionship. Or wanting happiness, but suffering in so many ways. briefly contemplating the benefits of compassion meditation, thinking of suffering of others helps take our mind off our own problems. Just by thinking of others rather than ourselves, our mind is lighter, becomes happier. Others want to be around us more. By contrast, the shortcomings of the self-obsessed mind, the selfish mind, how uncomfortable that is in our mind, the lack of inner peace, constant worry, anxiety. Also has karmic effects on our mind, creates problems, not just in this life, but in future lives. Can create disharmony with those around us, our partners, our loved ones. On a wider scale, all the wars of the world, the disharmony of the world, coming from a selfish mind, self-obsessed mind. So then the next step, we bring to mind a problem that has bothered us in our current life or past life or previous in the past. Could be a health problem. Perhaps during the COVID pandemic, we've experienced illness or fear of illness. We could have problems in our personal lives, relationship problems. Just bringing to mind a particular problem or a range of problems and how that affects or has affected our peace of mind, how it's disturbed our mind. Perhaps just a mental problem, not a physical related problem. Worry, depression, anxiety. Acknowledging that the Buddha taught that this is part of being in samsara, first noble truth, suffering exists. We're a part of that. We're not enlightened. We will suffer. We shouldn't be surprised. It's part of being in our predicament. Subject to karma and delusions. And then acknowledging that it's not just us or other unenlightened beings around us experiencing the same suffering, same problems. Acknowledging that while we experience this particular problem, countless others have the same problem, the same time, exactly the same time, same problem. Perhaps even a worse version of that problem. Even if they're not suffering our problem, think of all the other types of suffering these beings around us are suffering right now. Think of problems in war-torn zones, refugees, those suffering in places affected by drought, natural calamities, floods, climate change. Bushfires. Those suffering persecution, abuse of human rights. So many examples in the world of suffering, countless types of beings with countless types of suffering. Not just physical, some have all the physical needs they need, but still suffer mentally. Acknowledging the truth of this suffering, the first noble truth. Next step, introduce the idea that while I'm experiencing this problem, and others have the same problem, the idea that by me experiencing this problem, I could relieve these beings of their suffering. May I experience this suffering on behalf of all the beings. Just introducing this idea into our mind, imagining that by my having this problem, may I relieve these beings of all their suffering. Just noticing effect on the mind. If there's any resistance, just going beyond that. Then we focus on our breathing, particularly the in-breath. Imagine that we want to do something about this suffering of other beings. Visualizing with each in-breath, we take in their suffering in the form of black smoke from the hearts of all these beings. The black smoke with each in-breath enters our heart and destroys our own self-cherishing, relieving all the beings of each of their problems. Alternative visualization, imagining with each in-breath, the black smoke goes beyond space, where it can do no harm, relieving all the beings of each of their suffering. So it's just focusing now on the in-breath, breathing in, and taking the suffering from all these beings. Just staying with that. Completely dissolving our own suffering mind in the form of a hard rock in our heart, dissolving that. And then focusing now on the out breath. With each out breath, we imagine we breathe out all our own happiness, good karma, our realizations, the form of white light from the heart into the hearts of all these beings around us, giving them joy, release from all their suffering and happiness. White light goes straight into the hearts of the beings, purifying, healing them, giving them happiness. Stay with the visualization as we breathe out the white light into the hearts of all beings. Then we can alternate with each in and out breath, taking in the suffering form of black smoke, breathing out white light, the form of happiness to all beings if it's comfortable. And while we're doing this, we can, if it helps, recite the words, may you, all living beings like myself, be happy, may you be healthy, may you live in peace. May all you living beings like myself be happy, may you be healthy, and may you live in peace. And finally, we can just imagine that we have actually been successful in the meditation. Imagine all the beings around us have experienced the end of their suffering, feeling a sense of joy and happiness in the hearts of all those beings. How wonderful that we can help beings in this way. Acknowledging that all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have done this practice and have been successful in this practice. May I too be successful in this practice as they have. Feeling a sense of bliss in our own body and mind, acknowledging that other beings have also this feeling of bliss and happiness. Thinking of Lama Zopa's words that each time we do this practice, it helps us and all sentient beings come closer to enlightenment. and dedicating any positive merit from the practice to bring us and all sentient beings closer to enlightenment. Just to end the practice, I'll just recite Lama Zopa's special dedication for the pandemic. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed of all sickness. May all the sickness without exception of all transmigrating beings never occur again. And due to the merits of 3 times collected by me and all other Buddhists and sentient beings, may all wars or sickness, famine or torture, poverty, economic problems in the world, or dangers of earth, water, fire and wind be pacified immediately, and may perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and everyone's lives. May the Buddha Dharma last a long time, and may sentient beings in the world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. Just dedicating to that. Okay, thanks so much. I haven't left much time for questions or comments, but if there are any, you're more than welcome.
Hi,
No
Vanessa. Do you have
debate.
any questions?
Any questions, anyone? Okay, that's good. Hope it's so. I hope it works. That's great. So thanks so much for being there. Thanks, Shayla, for coordinating. Fantastic. I've been asked to do another class, I think in October, November, and I'm just working out whether I can do it. I think it's one module of Discovering Buddhism. I'm just trying to work out what day it is for me, whether I've got something on then, but I'll be in touch and let Dundrup know. Okay. In the meantime, stay well, stay happy, and thanks so much for being there.
Thank you, Alan. We look forward to learning from you again. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks so much. Stay well. All the best.